Doing well. Good. See ya.
Where did Sandy and Tony go? All right, well, I'm just gonna start because you guys are all here. So hello and welcome. I'm Morgan. I work here, obviously. I've been here for like 8 years in total, whether that was through a volunteer role, an intern role, or an employee role. So yeah, basically this orientation is just to give a general like rundown of all of the changes that we've made, which has been a lot. Tony and I have been racking our brains for a really long time trying to figure out like the best way to do everything with all the new changes. So hopefully tonight we can just kind of like put your mind at ease a little bit, because I know people, especially if you've volunteered here in the past, have been a little worried about like what changes are we going to make? Am I going to be safe volunteering? X, Y, and Z. So I introduced myself. That's Mariah. She's one of our new lead staff. Tony is our wonderful coordinator that just took over for Letitia and has been working day and night. I don't know the last time that she slept. So she's been working super, super hard on trying to like make this all happen and on time and effectively. And then the first person that we're going to chat with is Sandy Brecky. And I'll let her give her own intro and stuff as well. But she's going to talk all things COVID related. Woo. Take it away, Sandy.
I'm making this up as I go. Please stop me and ask questions. And, so I'm a nurse, and I work at Gunderson Health System in the Office of Population Health. In my previous life, though, I ran the St. Clair Health Mission, which is a clinic for the poor and uninsured. So I did that for 26 years. So this population that you guys are serving is near and dear to my heart, and I've worked with. It's been fun because I've been out of it for a few years, and now I've been back on the ground since March. And I got to see a lot of the old faces that I've known for years and years. So when COVID hit in March, Gunderson released me to go out to the community and work with the health department and the collaborative in homelessness to create the homeless strategy for COVID. So I did the special population pandemic strategy plan. So way back when this all started, we moved out of the warming shelter over to Cathedral School, locked everybody in at Cathedral School and Salvation Army in order to keep everybody safe. As time kind of went on, people and weather got warmer, people went out, and there was a group of us that followed people out. So a lot of what I've been doing is really COVID related stuff with the population. So I've done a lot of surveillance testing. So I'll go into Cameron Park and I go into the shelters and just test everybody to see where we are with COVID. We've had very few COVID cases in the homeless population. There was one outbreak that we had, all related to a house that people were living in. So we did a lot of surveillance and watching people and testing people. The health department helped us out with an isolation shelter. So if somebody was sick, we could immediately remove them and isolate them in a shelter. So we've had a lot of things in place. It's gone really well. We haven't had anybody who is homeless get COVID and be hospitalized. So that's pretty amazing for a community to have that kind of response. And this has been a ton of work by warming shelters working together with Salvation Army, which is working with ILR and CooleyCap, and everybody's really working together to keep the population safe. Currently, we have a hotel. The Ikfano Lodge is open. I think there's about 90 people in it at last count. The whole hotel was rented. And so that was really in response to COVID to try to keep as many people as we can safe and keep this population safe. So unfortunately, funding for that ends at the end of October, so next week. That's probably the group of people that we're going to start seeing here. They're going to be shifting some people into Salvation Army. We are going to keep part of that hotel, and we're funding it with the Franciscan Sisters funding for families. So at this moment, there's no place for families, homeless families to go. And there are, I think, as of today, 18 families over in that hotel who are homeless. And so the goal is keep those families, keep them tight. It's pretty cool. The school district is over there, and they've got modems for all the families, and they have tutors over there, and everybody got computers. So it's a great setup for families. But upstairs is a whole bunch of single people that are going to be coming back out. So I'm going to be testing people next week before everybody goes out. So we're going to have a really good idea if we have positive people running through the community. And I'll be doing that kind of throughout the winter. So there might be nights that I actually come in and offer COVID testing to everybody that's in here, just because we really are trying to survey the population, knowing that we've got a lot of congregate setting and the hard population, obviously, social distancing. So, you know, one of the things that I've been doing is working with organizations and staffing on how we protect ourselves. So the one thing I will say is, you know, different than earlier in March, right now we know COVID is community spread. So, you know, it's the same risk if we're out there as we are when you're in here. And we have to use the same precautions. So, you know, it is super important that we social distance. And it's going to be a little bit of a challenge, but, you know, we're going to have to be really adamant that everybody that comes in here washes their hands right away when they come in or uses sanitizer. The guests have to have masks on at all times. I would encourage you guys, if somebody does not have a mask on, don't approach them. You need to be in your masks all the time. I also recommend if you have glasses, really cool face designer ones now that I wear usually when I'm out and about. Yeah, that's the other thing I would recommend. Wash your hands a lot. Always keep your mask on. Protect yourself. Assume that everybody that you come in contact with is positive. So the goal really is to keep as much distance as you can at all times. And there will be times I know that we're going to have to approach people, but try to keep that as limited as possible. And always remember after you do that, make sure you're sanitizing your hands. When you get home, make sure you wash your clothes. You know, we just say wash your clothes in as warm a water as you can, wash your mask. And you know, the goal is really to keep everybody safe, keep the volunteers safe, to keep this population safe. We've done a really, really good job so far, a really good job. And so, you know, I expect that it's going to continue. We will be you know, every night that people come in, we're going to be doing temps and we're going to be checking to make sure that nobody is symptomatic. If they are, we don't want them in here. Immediately, we're going to be removing them, and we're setting up an isolation rooms in the community that we can put people to right away, because, you know, we do anticipate this. Just come in, we're going to get sick with something. We just really need to keep them separated and isolated as much as we can. So another thing, we're actually starting Monday, but the health department is giving us 150 flu shots. So we're going to immunize, we're going to give flu vaccines for everybody in the hotel, everybody over at Salvation Army, and they'll be in Cameron Park. So hopefully we'll have, and I probably will come in here. And so if there's anybody I miss next week, in here. So are there questions, concerns? Yeah, our community, I have to say, has had an amazing response. Everybody has been so good and really super diligent. And I think, and that's what it takes, is it, you know, being the eyes and the ears. If somebody looks sick, and that is one thing that, you know, I caution people about, that, you know, people are, you know, obviously taking it under the influence, and oftentimes if that's the case, they don't really pick up that they're feeling sick. So, you know, just be diligent and be watching people, because, you know, we need to protect everybody. So if you're all suspicious, you know, err on the caution side of caution, and let's get them removed and get them safe so that we can keep everybody else safe. And yourself too. And if you're feeling sick, and if you have symptoms, make sure you call and don't come. You know, we've had one case in shelter at Salvation Army, I think. And the suspicion is it probably came from a staff. So, you know, and that's what we're seeing right now in our nursing homes. The staff bringing it in. And so we just want to make sure we're also keeping everybody safe while we're keeping safe ourselves. And Tony knows, and everybody knows, they have my phone number at any time, day or night. I can be called, and I can come down anytime and check on someone, or I can check in with them the next day. I go out with the outreach teams on the ground. So if you're seeing people and you want me to check on them, let me know, and we'll find them during the day as well. Are there questions? The other thing is get your flu shots. They're available now. I recommend everybody get a flu shot this year for sure. Okay. Yeah. Thank you
I
guys.
guess I'll ask. Did you talk to her at all about like the dishes thing that we were talking about the other day?
But if we're like not using the dishes, yeah, we'll be using all plastic, so we're wearing dishes. The guests are expected to throw their own dishes away, so the less gambling than that you guys are having with it. So that is something that we're going to start doing. The kitchen will be partitioned off now. Kind of, you can see a black box. It'll come out and around, so no guest will be able to have access to the refrigerator, to anything over there, or to the washer and dryer. So we will be doing all the laundry. So it's a little bit more work for us, but it's just to keep everyone safe.
And people are very used to, I think, in hundreds of masks all over town, down by the river, into the parks. They don't want to get people sick either. So I've not had anybody talk at wearing a mask being around them. And, so I really don't anticipate you're going to have people come in here. You might have to remind people, also when they're sleeping, they should have their mask on. Especially from the story. Spewing whatever coming up. So, which will take a little bit of getting used to, but again, I have not had anybody argue with me about wearing a mask. They don't want to get others sick. That's how I always explain it. Because they'll say, well, I know you don't, but you have other people in here that may be vulnerable. And then they always know who's wearing. So they're used to wearing masks. They're used to being asked to wear masks. They're required to wear them whenever they go in public buildings. So this is considered that. So I don't anticipate you guys having trouble. And again, I'll be opening to do that.
Yeah.
What night is that?
On the first at 5 p.m. It's Sunday.
Oh, that'd be kind of fun.
It's a Monday or Sunday.
Somewhere. Who knows?
It's a Sunday.
Good. We have lots of
Thank you, Sandy.
Well, I'll be going through with all of it.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you guys for volunteering.
Thanks, Sandy.
Okay, perfect. And I'll stop.
So just those were a couple of the little things that we're starting now. A lot of things we moved people around, like the whole chair room has been moved around. There's 3 separate rooms now as a chair room, just to kind of keep that social distancing between the chairs and everybody. Every shower, after every shower, the showers have to be completely sanitized after someone uses it. I know it's more work for us and more work for volunteers, but just to keep everyone safe. The guests I know, if you ask them, be like, hey, can you clean that after you're using it? Most of them will do it. Also, the coffee and everything, I know they go through a lot of coffee and milk, but it will all be in plastic or styrofoam. So you won't be handling it either.
Yeah. I can give you actually, who's volunteered here before in the past? Ooh, lots of newbies. Okay, cool. So if you've never volunteered here, obviously, a lot of the changes you're not even really going to be aware of because you don't know what it used to be like. But for those of you that have volunteered here in the past, not a little different, a lot different. This whole thing is going to look a lot different than it has in the past. But so we're going to try to limit people congregating in the hallway. As you guys know, usually right at 6:30, that door would open and it would be like a mad dash to the front door here. So that will not be happening. And we're going to also limit, we don't want people in front of businesses over here. They obviously don't like that. We want to be respectful of that as well. So we're looking at getting, what are those called?
Something to make sure they go this way.
Something.
Instead of
We're
in
gonna
front of the apothic, because this is their drive up where they're not doing any service. They're not doing anything in their store, so they are having everyone drive up for their orders.
Yep.
So everyone is always pulling in front of here, so I just want to be mindful of that for them.
Yeah. So we're going to talk to them and see if we can just block off 2 parking spots or something and then have people congregate in more one area rather than across the whole entire sidewalk as they sometimes do. Plus, then we can be mindful of when people are littering and then we can figure out who it is. Yell at them. Anyways, so we're gonna still use the card calling system. If you guys also didn't hear, our number is 30, or it might be like about 30. I don't know. We're figuring out the exact number, but that is really huge because originally it was only going to be 15, and that would have not been as fun. So 30 is obviously not ideal, but it's what we're working with. Still going to use the card calling system. Those of you that don't know what that is, we basically hand out with one deck of cards. Each guest will get a card, and then a card caller will take another deck of cards, and then they will start calling them. And then when cards match up, that's obviously how you come in. It's fair. There's no fights with first come, first serve. And then, yeah. So 3 people will come in at a time, and then the temperature check and the health questionnaire that Sandy was talking about will be completed right there. If anyone is symptomatic or has a fever, they will be escorted out that door and to one of the isolation beds that Sandy was talking about. So no one that is showing any kinds of symptoms or with a fever will be allowed to stay. And then same thing with the mask. If you don't have a mask on, you cannot stay. That will be like a very, very hard, strict, like you got to go if you're not going to wear your mask. The intake process looks pretty similar, except for that it's like moved up a little bit. So like where the table is now is where the intake like table will be. There'll probably still be 2 volunteers there. They will pick, what is it? They pick a bed, like a room.
Yep, a room. We'll have
So
divided men and women.
yes, so there'll be a women's room. Hopefully that decreases problems and doesn't increase problems. But yeah, they will pick the room, and then you said where they were, closed closet, the old tote room, and then obviously the main one up there. All the chairs are 6 feet apart, plus they go every other way, so it's head to foot. So yeah, with that, with the distance, with the head to foot, plus the mask, I think we got a pretty safe set and plan there. And then the tote room is obviously now moved, is now in Tony's office. And I'm working on feeling really promising about getting my Dutch door so that it is cut in half, and then you can just open the top of it, and then you don't have to worry about people like barging into the room, because if you guys have ever worked in the tote room, you know that happens. No matter how hard you try, how many tables you put there, people will shove their way through some way. I don't know how. So I feel really good about my Dutch door. I think it's gonna work. Well, if we get it, I don't know. If anyone can make me a Dutch, if anyone can cut the door in half, let me know. But I think we're gonna get it. I feel good about it. Yeah. Anyways, another tote room change is now the blanket will be right in the tote. So then as they come in and put their stuff in the tote, you can just hand them a blanket right there. So that will delete the volunteer that would just like hand out blankets. We'll probably still have like someone floating or monitoring, but we won't have someone who's like just only job is to just hand out blankets. And then that's where the full like pantry, obviously all that stuff is still in there with all the toiletries. Laundry, we're still figuring out, but I think it's going to look something along the lines of like, if you want to do laundry, we will keep all of the laundry in the tote room, and only volunteers or staff will be doing laundry. There will be no guests touching the washer and dryer or anyone else's laundry, because things get lost or it overflows with soap or something weird happens. So volunteer and staff will be the only ones that will be touching the laundry, and I think that will help a lot with things like disappearing and making sure that our washer and dryer last long and don't break every week. So yeah, that's probably one of the other biggest changes as far as tote room goes. And then obviously we just talked about the chairs. They'll go put their blanket down on the chair, and then yes.
So there will only be up to 12 guests in here. We will have all the chairs in place. So that is another thing. There will be some overflow area out here for them to eat, just so that make sure they keep mindfulness. And like there's other people waiting to eat, so everyone's probably hungry. Yeah. Yeah, I want a warm meal. So
yeah, there'll be at least 2 volunteers still in the kitchen, and then James, can you pull out in that black box thing?
Yeah, so that's just gonna go all the way and connect.
Ooh, fancy. Sorry, people watching live, you can't see it. But it will loop and it'll connect to here, and that'll be there. Yeah.
That'll be pulled out.
Sally moved, and it'll be connected right here. So like, no guest will be in this area, which will be nice. So this will be all just like volunteers, and then they'll probably just pre-plate everything and just hand it off as you go, and it should work pretty slick. Then again, all paper and plastic utensils, they will be in charge of throwing their own stuff away, so we don't have to do that.
The chairs will also be marked off in the chair room, so no one can move the chairs. We know that some people like to move the chairs, or they want to scoot closer to somebody. That can't happen, so we're going to mark all the chairs off of the page, so we'll know.
Yeah,
We'll know if it's been moved.
Which brings me also to the strike system is now also changed. So before it was 3 days out in your first one. Your first strike this year will be an automatic 10. Basically, yeah. So like right off the bat, which might seem harsh, but given the amount of rules that we have to put in place this year, like, and it all comes down to safety. So if you're not going to oblige by that, like, you gotta go, because there's going to be people that will oblige by the rules, and we want those people in here, and we want everyone to be respectful. And like, obviously with these rules, if you break them, like, we're putting someone's health in danger plus their own. So being a little stricter on that this year. But the flip side, happy side of this is now we get 2 smoke breaks. So we had the one, it's like how I flipped that. Oh, 2.
That was horrible. Like 12 o'clock, they were asking always. So
yeah,
we did put 2 of them in place now.
Yeah, so they mean that for like the people, not like us. So just to clarify, it's for like them, not us.
You can smoke whatever you want.
So what time is smoke break?
8:30 and 12:30. The first one will be announced like normal. And then the 12:30 one will not be announced. You will not be able to go into your tote and grab them. They will know that it's happening. So if they plan on smoking at that break, like, they will be ready and they will be up. We're not going to go wake people up, because at that point, other people are going to be sleeping. So we're not going to go and yell, "Hi, smoke break."
Are you still late? They don't go again?
What?
Are you still going to be opening at 6:30 again?
So,
7 o'clock.
yeah, doors open at 7.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, except the first night will be 5 o'clock. So, because we have so much paperwork to do with them, so I have different people coming from different organizations that come help us with that, just to kind of keep it going a little bit faster. So, yeah, they'll be going in.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much all of like the procedure stuff. And again, this can all change. We've been thinking way too hard and way too long about how the best way to do this, just like completely racking our brains. So there could be a solution that we find out makes sense in like a week, and it'll be like, oh, duh, like, why didn't we think of that before? But so again, everything could change. This whole year is different. We are all going to adapt. The guests are going to adapt, hopefully.
I think a lot of them are going to be new this year. There are a lot of people out there I don't know, but there are a lot of them that we know. But I think the ones that didn't know the rules last year will be fine with it. And plus, it's getting really cold out really quickly, so I think a lot of them will just be happy to be inside.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess that brings me to is like, obviously they have, I mean, some of them have been in the hotel. A lot of them have been outside since we kind of shut down our shelter here. Because like, you guys don't know, we went to Cathedral and then we had to come back to here. And then some people went to Salvation Army. But like, some people left Cathedral shelter like right away in like March or April, and they've been outside since. So people are going to come in, and they're going to, we don't really know exactly what we're going to be walking into, what they're going to be walking into. It's the same with every other year, but we can just add the trauma of COVID and being outside. So being very mindful of that. Obviously the compassion piece, the empathy piece with all of this. I mean, you guys are all deciding to still come volunteer in the middle of this pandemic. So that's amazing. We can't run the shelter without volunteers. So thank you all very, very much for being here, because we can't open our doors without you. I mean, we can try to run this, the two of us. We could maybe do it, but it wouldn't be fun, and I'd probably cry. So I'm very appreciative that you guys are all here. All of you guys too that are watching over there. Um,
And that's James back there, you guys.
Oh, yeah.
He's our volunteer coordinator, so without him this year, I probably wouldn't have all the volunteers together, so.
Yes.
He's been wonderful helping with that.
So also recruit your friends to volunteer. Like, hey, just tell them you're taking them to dinner or something, and then take them there. we have really good meals here, and so it's not a bad place to get dinner. I probably my best meals are during the warming center season. Also, if we have leftover food, which I'm sure that we will be allowed to give food to people that we have to turn away. I know that was kind of a weird rule last year. It changed and it was kind of a mess, but we will be able to give food to people that we turn away, as well as blankets. We're going to have other stuff on hand, hand warmers, like any supplies that we can give to people. Obviously, we don't want to turn people away. It's all of our least favorite things to do. I've turned away hundreds of people in the last however many years that I've been here, and it never gets easier. It is so heartbreaking every single time. So
we've been working with Salvation Army though, so we can try to figure out something for them to do turn away from the other over there. So hopefully it'll just be a phone call over there.
Yeah, there's still like a lot of community conversation of finding larger locations. Scared me. Okay. Anyways, but yeah, still those conversations are happening. So hopefully, like, we will have other things in place, so we don't just when someone says, "Well, where am I supposed to go?" We actually have like an answer for them. That is the hope. Anyways, I've talked long enough. Who has questions? Michael, yes.
So when you turn people away, they're just like hanging out there sometimes, or they have to like tell them to like go.
Tell some of them to go.
You guys, but we wouldn't mainly, I think that would mainly be us, like the paid people that are here, the employees that are here. They would mainly be dealing with that. So.
Again, we are all here to just make your guys' life easier. Like, we want you guys to come back. So we will always be the bad guy in situations. You will never have to give a strike to someone. If there is obviously a situation, like, you can find any of us that are going to be here, and like, we will take care of that for you. You guys don't have to. We want all the volunteers or all the guests to love and respect you, which they do. You guys will make wonderful relationships with the guests. If you guys have volunteered here in the past, you know that. They love volunteers. They love chatting with volunteers. I mean, our homeless community is very tight knit here, and so like they're essentially a family. So when they get like an outside person to just like sit down and talk with them about their story, about their day, about anything, like, they are so appreciative. I think there was one person last year there was one volunteer that came. It was like her first night, and she sat down and talked to this guy at the kitchen table for like an hour. She's like, yeah, we just talked about life and just random stuff. And every single night after that, he would be like, when is she coming back? Is she coming back? Like, and like, it made like little things like that make such a difference for volunteers and guests. Obviously, I had a similar experience. I just started volunteering like literally 7 years ago, and here we are. Now it's my career. So don't underestimate how impactful this place can be. It's really awesome. So again, I commend you all for being here as well. I've talked for a long time. Does anyone else have questions?
So, like, as a new volunteer, is there a place you want us to park? Is there a place you?
The motel's been pretty good about allowing us to park over there. So like further down from, like from the main entrance of the motel across here, further down, if they have open spots, they don't mind us parking there. Because if you park out front, trust me, I know very well, you want me to check that out every week. So yeah, they are very strict on that.
It's alternate side, isn't it?
It will be starting whenever that starts.
It's just for open parking.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're just doing like intake, you're usually pretty safe to just park right out on the street, and there's normally spots.
Because the 2-hour parking ends at 6 o'clock.
Yeah, and then it just like it restarts again at like 1 o'clock a.m.
Oh, does it?
It becomes 1 hour parking. So they can you don't people at the bars, the cars on the street.
It's the worst.
So you can leave it out there for like a few
Yeah.
If you're here, if you're here for intake, like if you're here, volunteer shifts as well. I guess I could go over that. So we changed the shifts a little bit. Intake is still the same, 6:30 to 9. And then we basically broke up the volunteer overnight shifts into shorter shifts. So we have 9 p.m. to midnight, midnight to 3, 3 to 6:30. And then again, we have that morning shift like 6 to 8. So obviously, if you are one of those overnight people, you can take multiple hours, but I don't know. I feel like it's easier to get volunteers if you don't have to be here for a whole entire night. So,
how many people are on the different shifts? Like
intake, ideally, we want 8. Yep, it'll be 8, and then the first.
2 in the kitchen.
Yep, 2 in the kitchen, 2 intake, 2 tote room.
Oh, so that's 8 for that
9. Yep. And then overnight, really, you only need like one or 2, because we'll have overnight staff as well.
Morning, definitely 2.
Yeah.
4 would be ideal, but 2 or 3 for sure because it's really busy.
Yeah, if anyone's been here in the mornings, it's a little hectic.
Yes.
Do they get a meal in the morning too then before they leave?
We usually have like cereal or breakfast bars or something. Sometimes people do bring in different meals in the morning, but not too many people have secured that. I think I have Saturday mornings for sure.
Yeah.
But there's not, there was someone who brought me breakfast.
Yeah, there was a couple. We solidified quite a few like hot breakfast meals last season. I think we're still figuring out who's all willing to come back and do that, just because like doing a meal for dinner is a little easier because usually you just have to bring in the food and then we have volunteers to serve it. With breakfast, it was normally someone would bring it in and also serve it. So, and a lot of that was church groups with a lot of older adults that aren't comfortable coming, which is totally fine. So, but yeah, we are working on that. If anyone knows anyone that wants to do some breakfast stuff, let us know too. Any other questions? I'm trying to think of questions that people asked the other night.
I do want to say one thing. The other night when I was doing this as well, I was asked a really good question. Somebody had asked, is it normal or like, should we give someone a strike because they come in intoxicated or under the influence? No. That answer is no. We expect that. It's kind of normal. So.
If they're belligerent, then they're not allowed. If they're just intoxicated, we don't chill them with that. They're allowed to come in. Most of them will right to sleep anyway.
Is that guest or was for a volunteer?
Just the guest. Staff does not.
Any other questions?
Yes, and if you want to look at them,
yeah, we can do
and you guys can tour everything.
Sure. All right.
Okay, go and do that.
I know.
Should I take the computer? Do they want to do
Yeah. Give them a tour too.
Maria, LOL. I'll take you guys with me.
Pretty much off the entire place, so.
Here's the kitchen. The new floor. I can't even see where I'm going. Intake table. Tony.
It's so cold.
Here's the new tote room. Ooh, towels. Here's all this stuff. You guys having like a seizure yet? Probably. This will be a chair room. We have some chairs in here. What?
Is it moving or what's happening?
Food pantry is moving, as is the clothes closet, but we will have some stuff on hand. We will keep clothes, coats, that kind of stuff. It won't be a full-blown closet because obviously that's going to turn into a chair room. It's up in the air. There's a possible 2 locations. Yes. Here's another chair room. I don't even know where I'm putting this thing. How are the chairs, Micah?
Very big.
Yeah. So this, this is like probably a pretty good idea of like what the whole room will look like, and how they're just going to be like spaced out. Obviously, we can't move those chairs into there or downstairs yet because there's still stuff there, but that will all get moved within the next week.
So do you have to like not be making noise when you're in here?
I mean, after a certain time, like the TV will go off at 10. I mean, honestly, this is sometimes the loudest room because a lot of people snore. So maybe the masks will help. I don't know. You guys got any other questions? Otherwise, I'm gonna end it. Okay, bye.